Hey, welcome to another video from the Outdoor Analyst. Today I have a really fun one for you. And this kind of comes up because of, well, basically a trip I'm planning on doing next weekend. And it's going to be a quick little backpacking trip. And I just kind of wanted to go through the mindset that everyone does when they go into a backpacking trip, and how you start from incredibly wise and how your decisions change as you think you're going to run into different things. But I want to start off by saying this is the exact things you need to do. You need to go light, you need to go small, because I guarantee you this, unless you are in absolutely insane terrain, like you're at a really super high elevation where you know that the weather's going to change constantly, you probably just need to have a tiny little knife on you. And for where I'm at in the Midwest, in all the scenarios you can ever think of that you can ever really want, every time I've gone backpacking, I've never needed more than a tiny knife. So I'm just going to kind of put out the best options, kind of let you know what's out there, what you really do need. If you've never been backpacking, you'll probably run through this same scenario. So I'm just going to start with, what do you think is the most wise? The most wise is someone's going to tell you a very lightweight blade. And what I've actually recommended forever, as I drop stuff all over the place, is going to be, mind how absolutely insanely disgusting this is. This has been the most hard-used knife ever. Mora Bushcraft Black is a fantastic choice. Kind of on the lighter weight end, but still, it has a little bit of weight to it, and you can do pretty much everything you'll ever need in camp. A Mora 511. I have a ton of these just around the house. They are incredible for bushcrafting. They're incredible for just, taking stuff out in the garden, or if you have to just take out weeds and trees. Yeah, you can do all your fire steels with it. You can make little fires, no problem, with a small little Mora. My most popular backpacking knife is this little Mora Eldris, and I have taken this on a lot of trips, and every single time this has been the most I've ever actually needed, because all you're doing in reality is opening up packages, cutting rope for horrible situations that arrive, or making little tent stakes if you forget stuff for your hammock or your tarp or whatever you're using, and then making a small fire. Most of the time when you're backpacking, you are so tired anyway, at least if you do it the way I normally do, that you're going to be just using a lighter anyway. So the faster the better. Bring some tinder, get that stuff going. Fantastic choice. Usually my number one choice. This is going to be something that might take its place, and this is an Wright pronghorn. Fairly lightweight, especially with this really light JRE sheath. Size-wise, fairly similar, but you get a little more length. You don't get the girth in the handle, but I feel like they're very, very similar. Just one's in CPM 3V, one's stainless 12C20N. Totally two different animals, but you can do a lot more with this one than you can with that. But they're very, very similar. Both really, really good options. This is also a great option. This is the Bark River Ultralight Bushcrafter. Taken this one with me several times as well. Fantastic. You get a lot of length out of this compared to the others. So you can do a little more in the kitchen-y world. It's also very, very lightweight. I think this whole package is just like 4 or 5 ounces. Maybe even less than that. And when you think of that, how heavy is that really? That's the same as taking a Spyderco PM2. And blade-wise, fairly similar. You get a little bigger handle on the PM2, but it's not as ergonomic, surprisingly, when you're doing like actual wood tasks. So these 3 fixed blades actually win. And a lot of times people say, well, why did you ever need to take anything besides a folder? You don't. You honestly don't. As a matter of fact, I know several people that just take Benchmade bug outs or Spyderco PM2s, and for all the tasks you're actually going to do, these knives will do great. The reason why I sort of like to go with a fixed blade is because if you decide to put these in your pocket while you're backpacking in the Midwest, they will not stick with you the entire time. You're going to be going through enough brush or enough trees, or if you ever do off-trail stuff, which usually happens backpacking, surprisingly. Trails don't always stay in anything in my state. They are always changing, moving, or being moved to something in the backcountry. And these will just get ripped out of your pocket. So pocket clips do not work in the woods. So unless you're like gonna put this in your pack, it's not worth it. But if you're gonna put something in your pack at that point, then there's no convenience to having a folder I just go fixed blade. So that's why I generally take a fixed blade with me. Another great option is going to be this Bush or Bark River, what's this, the Scout? Bushcraft Scout or something. It's in Magna Cut, so the steel is amazing. It's basically a slightly larger ultralight bushcrafter. This one has a little thicker on the handle, so it's a little bit more to work with. It's a little heavier too, so when it comes to like the full package, so you kind of have to really weigh, do I want that extra couple ounces of weight that just this handle material has over this? And in the end, I would probably say no, unless you just really wanted a super stainless versus just a 3V. So that's your own kind of preference on those. Another great option is going to be the ESEE3 and then RB3. This thing has an amazing handle, and it is awesome for little bushcraft stuff. It's a little Scandi grind on there, really comfortable handle. The only thing here is this is micarta, a little bit thicker, 1095. It is a little heavier. Now we're talking about getting into the 6+ ounce range. Fairly light sheath, but just this setup is quite a bit heavier than all of these. So keep that in mind. This micarta is heavier than the natural woods. It's much heavier than the smaller pronghorn. And you are getting a little more length from the ESEE and a much more comfortable handle. But in reality, if you're backpacking, you're not really going to be doing that much woodwork because you're generally just freaking tired. So you spend a little bit of time getting stuff prepped and then you call it. So out of these, what is going to be my pick? It's really a toss-up. It's truly a toss-up right now. All these are fantastic options. Probably not going to take the Bushcraft Black here just because I've used it so much, and it does have like concrete and stuff on there, makes it a little heavier. So I'm going to take that one off the table. As far as the lightest and most useful option, I'm actually going to tell people to just go get this Mora. This thing is basically 1095 steel, so same as this. It's uncoated, so it'll rust on you. In the Midwest, you gotta be a little careful with that to keep it dry. If that's really an issue, then where you're at, then take the 1095s off the table and move on to the stainless, which is gonna be this one, and then 3V, which is not a stainless, but it's kind of like nearly semi. It does fairly well for corrosion. So that leaves you 4 really good options if you're in kind of a I don't know, a humid or rainy environment. If you know that's what it's going to be, you'll probably just take the Magna Cut and call it. But from this point, here's where everybody says, oh yes, this is the most logical choice. But what if I run into this? What if I run into that? What if I need a huge fire? What if I need more protection, or I need to span logs or have fun? And on those cases, if it's just an overnight trip, fine, take the weight and get a huge knife. Bring something big in there. So I'm going to take these off the table. I'm going to lead you down the rabbit hole that every single one of us is going to go down or does go down when they decide they're actually going on a backpacking trip. Because you think of a lot of other things that could happen, things that might happen. I'm just going to say it. I'm probably going to take the LT Wright pronghorn. I think that's where I'm going. In all honesty, it's super light, super small. And I think that's all I'm actually going to need. So let me tell you, let's start with some of the thought processes that come after. Once you actually know what you need, you know what, I'll leave this out here for reference, just so people have an idea. This is probably 4.5 ounces by the time it's done. I'm just going to leave this up here. Most people's minds will then go to, what if I need just a little bit more length on the blade? And I'll still give some good options here. My next option that I actually would take is going to be this little custom. This is going to be a Papa Bear Knives. I think they call this a Hunter's EDC. I know customs are kind of unfair to put out here, but this thing is an 80 CRV2. It's fairly thin. It has a 4-inch blade, and it is super lightweight. We're talking, this is probably the same weight as the Mora Bushcraft Black. I think I'd probably take this over it. Do I think this is a bad option? No, it is just a little more weight. You have a few extra ounces involved. Now luckily this Kydex is very, very thin, very, very light. So it's about the same as actually the LT Wright sheath. So those are actually equal. It's just a little bit more weight in the steel here and the handle material. Is this a bad option? No, I actually wouldn't blame anybody for taking this backpacking. It's really, really close. It's just an extra couple of ounces, and I probably don't need it. A huge option for people is to go out and then take like a Falcon Even F1. Great option. Still perfect for backpacking, fairly lightweight, but you're moving up a couple extra ounces, and every single ounce that you add on a trip really does add up, especially if you're pushing 10 to 12, 15 miles a day. That is not a joke in the backcountry. Every ounce really matters, and for me, I have bad ankles now. My goal is to keep things extremely ultra lightweight. I usually pack out with 3 to 4 ounces of, not 4 ounces, but 3 to 4 liters of water is about 25 pounds. So there, now you know what I'm trying to take out there. I'm trying to stay as light as possible. But down the rabbit hole people go is, well, maybe I need this, or maybe I need, let's see, here's an awesome one. A great one would be Chris Reeves Nyala. This thing's fantastic. I absolutely love it. But it's also bumping up in the weight class. This is a thick piece of steel. It will handle everything I need out there, even more so probably than the Falcon Even by far, S35 VN versus VG10. Great steel, very stainless, would do a great job, but this weighs an extra 3 to 4 ounces over this. And that is not a small thing. Another thing people would start slowly creeping up, what about an SE3? Great choice. Still has maybe an inch more blade than what I'm gonna be taking. If I can show that, maybe I can, maybe I can't. There we go. Maybe an inch more. But it has probably it has at least 3 ounces on it. So, great knife. Getting up into really not much more of what you can accomplish, but definitely a much higher weight. And that's where really people start going crazy, is they'll move from, oh, I think this will be perfect, this will do everything I need, zip up my bags, definitely be able to do some feather sticks, split some small kindling, to slowly justifying more and more and more with a little bit more capability. So I'm gonna wipe these off here, because that's kind of like the next step where it's fairly logical, but you're getting into the point where you're nearly just bringing extra weight because you want to bring the knife. That's what it kind of comes down to. The next argument is, how about a great bushcraft knife? Because I'm out there bushcrafting. When I bring a really good bark river here, a tundra, much thicker, can baton, can split stuff, now I can have a great fire. You can. This is an awesome knife. I use this knife a ton, especially around the house doing fires, or either in the fire pit or the fireplace. Fantastic. Why wouldn't you bring that? Well, guess what? It weighs probably an extra 6 ounces. When it really comes down to it. Maybe even, maybe not 6, but at least an extra 3 or 4. Same thing with this. This is an awesome belt knife, Winkler belt knife. When it comes to mind, like, why wouldn't I want this to be on my hip at all times? If I'm in the woods, yes. If I'm actually trying to do distance, we're getting a little heavier here, but everybody starts to think, what if I need it? What if I need a slightly more tactical knife? Or what if I just want something that really looks cool? Pull out the Lon Humphrey Bridger here. Now we're starting to get into those aesthetics of this. These are just way cooler knives, and I really want to go on a trip and take some good photos with this. Okay, now I see that's where your mindset's going. You're going down the rabbit hole, and then you get to the point where, well, heck, I really want a great camping experience. Why don't I bring just a great camp knife? Okay, Bark River 1.25 LT. Now I have an awesome camp knife that I can do food with, I can do wood with, I can do everything and be super, super comfy. Okay, great. It's so much more comfortable. It's not that, you don't feel like it's really that heavy. You have a lot more capability with it. Camp knife, backpacking knife, belt knives. Why wouldn't you take these? This is where you go. You're like, but I can do much more. What if I get in trouble and I really need to do something? Well, that's when that comes out. So you've gone from backpacking to really decent sized belt knives here. Where do you go from there? Where does your mind take you in scenarios of, oh my gosh, what if the worst of the worst happens? What do I do next? And that's where your mind will start taking you to small survival knives. And that's where you go. That's where people go, and that's where you think you need to be. So then you start thinking, I need a 6 or 7 inch knife. So, little Lon Humphrey, oh gosh, I don't even remember the name of that one. But it's a great little survival knife where you bring out your Chris Reeve. You think, what if I'm in a dangerous situation now? Okay, so you bring out the Green Beret. We're talking 6 and 7 inch knife blade length here. Now I can span a lot bigger logs. I have slightly more defensive tools. I have also jumped up my weight game to be close to a pound. Yeah, now you're in that 12 to 16 ounce range. Have I increased my capabilities? 100%. I can do way more with these, way more in the camp, way more for fire, way more for defense. But what if I still go through my entire trip and all I'm doing is opening up a couple of mountain house packages, cutting some rope, and doing a little bit of wood? Now you've really increased your capability, but you've really just kind of decided, is it worth it for the weight? Now your next step will be, okay, this should totally be enough, but what if it's not? What if we're in that real serious situation? Someone gets hurt out there. Now I'm 2 days in the woods. I've sprained an ankle, which I've been there before, and guess what? You can totally get out. That's why you bring walking sticks. But we'll not go there. That was my last backpacking trip. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Your mind will tell you, now I need everything. I need to be able to process wood. I need to be able to take care of any scary situation. So you think, okay, I'll take a small hatchet with me or a small axe. Grand First Brooks outdoor axe. Awesome. Even great for the weight. Or your mind will say, I need a crazy chopper. Because I don't want to take an axe and look crazy, I'll take a huge fixed blade. Okay, can I even get this in frame? There's the Tops Vector, or is that what it is? Vortex, Storm Vector, there we go. Amazing, I can span crazy amounts of logs. I can take down decent sized trees without too much effort, batoning or chopping, with both of these actually. They'll do great. Or you'll say, you know what, screw that. I actually just want that old-timey Western Bowie feel. So instead you take out your Vector for a big old Bowie. So let's go with a Bark River 1909 Bowie. And some people think, I need both of these, a small knife and a saw. By the time you've done this, you're at a pound for your knife, you're at a whole pound for your axe. Whether you take them singularly or together, that is a crazy amount of weight. And now you have taken, my goodness, that's like your water weight for a day or more. It's more than that. And you decided that's worth it to feel better on your trip. But let me tell you, you really don't need that. All you need is this. And if you get really worried about that other stuff, about surviving, you do not need a big knife, nor do you need an axe. You need a small saw. Especially if you're hammocking, you need to clear stuff out of the way. Do you want to clear it with an axe or a hammer, or not a hammer, or a big knife that weighs a pound? Or this thing that's 4 ounces. And this thing that's probably 3 ounces, maybe 4 by the time you get it all said and done. You be the judge. So I went through a bunch of stuff. And in reality, your best and most effective way to take care of stuff in the woods is this, a very small saw. All you really need for backpacking is a tiny little knife, which is where I'll be going. And if you're really ultra lightweight and you realize I don't even care about feather sticking that much, and if I do it, it's 100% emergency, that's how you view it instead of fun, take a couple ounce folder. Don't put it in your pocket, throw it in your backpack, and you're done. That is the logic in all reality. Do not keep moving up the span unless you are 100% willing to take the weight. And if you're backpacking for distance, you'll actually really regret it. You will regret taking the extra stuff. And if you've never done that before, you will throw out everything that has extra weight on your next trip. And you'll realize it's just not worth it. So, giving a little advice to new backpackers, and maybe just a reminder to people that have not been out in a little while. You do not need much. There isn't much you cannot do with a knife like this. Even with a little say, Benchmade bug out. This thing weighs nothing. So amazing. But I do like the extra capabilities that I get with, let's say this little thing's 3V. I can crank on this. I can really do pretty stupid things and I won't have any issues. So anyway, that is my backpacking rant. I went through a ton of knives just to kind of give you the small, medium, large perspectives, what our minds run through when we go backpacking. And in reality, what do you really need? Be wise, be smart, have a fun trip, go lightweight, save yourself the ounces, and have your fun woods trips. Make that camping. That's when you take your really cool knives, not when you go backpacking. So anyway, that's just my advice. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to think it's worth anything. But that's it's a lot of experience of backpacking trips put into one. So hopefully that helps. Have a absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you on the next one.